Welcome everybody to GoLocal Live. I'm Josh Fenton, CEO and co-founder. It is a big day of news. Big day down at Rhode Island International Airport. Breeze's CEO, David Neeleman, is in town, just making the announcement of a major expansion, all-time record expansion at the airport. We have that live as well. But we have got Allison Dessel. I believe she has been deemed the queen of the East Bay in the real estate world. She's from Mott and Chace. It's Wednesday. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Are you officially the queen? Was there a coronation and all that kind of stuff?
There was nothing like that, but I'll take the title, but it's not true. But thank you for being so kind.
You were actually democratically elected. I will point that out. So let's go down the East Bay. It is, just when you think it can't get any more complicated to buy a house, it gets more complicated to buy a house. Tell us how to buy a house. Tell us what the numbers are and how buyers can work their way through this.
So, it's been a really dynamic spring market in the East Bay, all the way around, and the same processes hold true as they have the past 2 years, which is, have your ducks in a row, know what you can spend, and be prepared to, if the property is in great condition, be prepared for multiple offers and just put your best foot forward. That is still very much the name of the game. It is a seller's market.
Okay, so talk about
the East Bay. I wish I had better news for buyers.
Yeah, talk about the East Bay. What's on the market right now? How many houses in Barrington, Warren, Bristol? What can buyers look to?
Well, Barrington in particular, there's only 20 active properties, and that ranges from $2.5 million down to the $400,000, $400,000 or $500,000 price point. So there's 20 active properties on the market currently, spanning that range. There's 4 under contract. There's 30 in pending since January, and 45 properties that have sold since January 1. So you're looking at, 75 units that are either locked in, on track to close and or closing since January 1. So that, that's a fair bit of inventory. We're still under 2 months worth of inventory statewide, but and certainly Barrington, doesn't have a lot on the market, but the properties that are on have been performing. So that's great news. Warren has very little inventory in the single family market. There's 5 actives. There's 1 under contract and 6 pendings, but they've had 18 sales since January 1. So Warren, is the other spectrum, and Bristol's in the middle. There's 18 actives, 5 properties under contract, 11 pending, and 38 solds this year. So, shortly, that's almost 50 properties trading since January, or close to trading, on track to trading. So it's been an active market, I can say, for sure.
What percentage of the buyers are from out of state?
That's a good question.
And ballpark it.
There's still, I would say 50%, 60%. Yeah. There's still very much the out of state. There's also, there's movement from Providence and other towns. There's always that movement to Barrington for what it offers in terms of, features and amenities. So for Barrington,
and schools, right? That's the move, right? Your kid turns 4 or 5, you're on your way off the east side and over to Barrington.
100%. The public school system has always been a defining, characteristic and quality and asset for Barrington. And then, in Bristol, it's still very much, it's a second home market still. It's also primary, primary home market, but certainly the secondary market is big, much more so in Bristol than Barrington. Barrington is more of a year-round community, I would say. But there's a lot of Bristolians who are year-round as well. So it runs the gamut, but the out-of-state buyers are very much here. I have a showing this week with a DC couple who are changing tack and coming to Rhode Island. So it's very much happening still.
Talk a little bit about this dynamic right now, 7% interest rates for those who need to finance. You've got a median single-family home price now in Rhode Island of I think April was 463, something like that, up about 4% year over year. How are those two numbers complicating the buying process and limiting the number of buyers, especially obviously first-time home buyers? It is a difficult slog.
It is a slog, to be sure. However, what I think it's done, it was unpalatable when the rates started going up. I think this new construct is normalized in buyers' minds a bit more than it was, and people have wrapped themselves around it. Like, look, we're buying in a different category of property now, and
Right.
It just is what it is for all of us. So people are adjusting as humans will. There's some resistance in the beginning, but we just plot a course where it's a different price point, and when it's time to refinance, people will you date the rate, marry the house, date the rate. So that is what we guide buyer clients to be mindful of, and let's still put our best foot forward in the price point that we're in. And we just have to deal.
Is that realtor's new favorite cliche? Is that beat out location, 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 date the rate,
date the rate.
buy the house?
I heard someone say it a few months, maybe 6 months ago, and I thought that's really good. I'm taking it. I mean, we all have our, there's first wife, there's third realtor, there's all kinds of little isms that we say. Judy's got a ton of them, but but people have been people have accepted it, and so there's still plenty of inventory. I also say there's a lid for every pot and there's a house for every buyer, and I do believe that, and when things improve, people will adjust for that accordingly too. So we are where we are, unfortunately.
What are you seeing as sort of the tenor of the market? We've been through sort of, these crazed periods in the last 3+ years of, 70 people at an open house, 20 bids, $300,000 over asking price. Where are we right now in sort of that high energy dynamic versus the olden days of balloons at open houses and baking cookies to make the house look, smell? That was sort of the other polar opposite of the realty world.
Yeah, I miss those cookie times, Josh, but those times were. But what I would say is, for a listing agent, price point is more important than ever. If a property is priced well, we are still seeing tons of multiple offer activity. If a property is priced well and the property is in good condition, or price is paramount. So and even if a property is a renovation property, if it's priced for that, the activity is incredible. When properties are priced outside of sort of I call it the zip code, but the sweet spot, whatever the expression is that someone wants to use, when it's priced out of that is when the properties sit. And the same psychology is still true. There are a lot of buyers who just want to come in to a turnkey property and not have to think about it. That doesn't mean, though, that oftentimes I'm seeing that they're not as concerned with the quality or the craftsmanship, but rather, I want to come in, I don't want to think about this. And for those properties, the prices go above ask, and it's very much still happening. Or little gem properties. I mean, there was a property, in Providence, a tiny little property on the east side that, had multiple offers and needs a lot of work, small footprint. But, where there's opportunity, I think, for buyers is to really think about the properties that need work over time, where people are not as interested because they don't want to deal with it. I guide my buyers, if they have a taste for doing renovations themselves and or over a period of time, those are the gems, those are the properties to think about. It's hard to compete with multiple offers for people.
Has the bridge has had a factor on a lot of components of the economy. I think it was 2 weeks ago we broke two stories, sort of sad stories, iconic restaurants, Minerva's Pizza closing and Salted Slate closing, two very different restaurants in Wayland Square. Minerva's has been there for more than 50 years, Salted Slate more than 10 years. We knew the owners of both, frequented both, but both pointed out that the impact of East Bayers not coming up to Wayland Square, especially for dinner, and for Minerva's, they had been doing a lot of delivering during COVID, which helped them to the East Bay, and that had somewhat dried up because of the difficulties. You're seeing more restaurants open up in Barrington, Warren, and Bristol. You're seeing places like Plant City move their location from Middletown over to Barrington, hasn't opened yet. But is that becoming more of, you don't have to go into Providence to have a good dinner type of situation now?
Very much so. I mean, my concern is with people who work in Providence and beyond, in terms of navigating the bridge situation right now. As I said the last time I was here, it doesn't feel temporary when you're in it.
Right.
So I get that, but I don't want to be short-sighted for people because of all of the amenities and the school system of Barrington and the East Bay. I don't want people to lose out on, living near or by the water because of the commute. This will pass. Having said that, and watching the metamorphosis on the East Bay from when I was a kid, you kind of don't need to leave. It's pretty amazing, from restaurants, cafes, shops, doctors, healthcare
liquor
providers.
Stores. It was a dry town, right?
We have liquor stores too. There's a lot there. To that end, it has made getting reservations. There's a little off track, but getting reservations on the East Bay on a Friday or Saturday night, open table, resi, they are filled up. People are definitely flocking in that direction. So it's unfortunate. The restaurant situation in general is unfortunate, and certainly for those two iconic restaurants. But there is a lot sort of encapsulated in the East Bay, and not a huge need to leave.
Last question for that buyer. It's in many cases it's just gotten more and more complicated for them. When you're working with buyers, let's just say it's not a first-time buyer, but it's not an all-cash $3 million buyer, sort of in between there. Maybe they can stretch for $1.5 million on the East Bay. What are you saying to them, and how are you guiding them through this process?
Well, my job as an advisor is always to look at, the total number someone is dealing with. So it's great to get a pre-qualification for X, but there's so much more that goes into the buying process than just, look, I can buy up to this price point. It's insurance, it's other carrying costs, and people really need to be mindful of looking at all of that when they're approaching a property. So I do like to always run those numbers with people and say it's not just, there's so much that goes into home ownership. Amazing aspects of home ownership to be sure, but you still want to look at the totality of what is your monthly from start to finish, because at the end of the day, it's your monthly is a big driver in terms of affordability and also planning for the future as well, and building equity. All of those things, it's it all has to go into the package, and people need to be mindful of all of it. So we try to work through all of that.
Well, listen, I always appreciate you taking the time. You have great insights as to what's going on all over the state, but especially on the East Bay, where you are dubbed the Queen, and appreciate sort of your guidance in having to help people through this process. It's a stressful process, it's an exhausting process, and all the rest. So thank you for taking the time yet again.
Oh, I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, for everybody else, stay tuned. First of all, it's about as nice a day as you can get. It's like we live in Palo Alto. We could change the signs at Brown over to Stamford, and we'd all feel different about the day. But it is a spectacular day. Big news down at Rhode Island International Airport. Just a mammoth growth in that airport in the number of direct flights. And 2017, they just had 17 direct flights out of the airport. It's already 37, and it's going to jump up, up, and away, pushing towards 60 over the next few years. Take a look at the announcement that Breeze has made. It's up on the site, and more to come on evaluating how big and what the impact is going to be on Rhode Island's economy. And for people buying new homes, they're going to expand their workforce from 200 to 400 over the next 5 years. So much more on that. Everybody stay safe, enjoy this great weather, and look forward to a great holiday weekend.